Hi, I'm Brian E. Denton, author of the book A Year of War and Peace and the poetry collection Inspiration. Welcome to my channel. This video is another video in a series I'm doing on Dante's Divine Comedy. The idea behind these videos was born from Baylor University's 100 Days of Dante Project, which is a project that wants to cultivate a global readership to read through the entire Divine Comedy at a rate of 3 cantos or chapters per week. I think it's a great project, and this is my independent contribution to it. I ask if this is your first time watching one of these videos to please consider liking the video and also subscribing to the channel. I've set myself the goal of getting to 150 subscribers by the end of September. Let's see if we can do it. Thanks so much for your help. And with that, let's get right into it. Dante's Inferno, Canto 6. Dante awakens from his grief-induced unconsciousness, only to find himself having been mysteriously transported to the third ring of hell. The air down here is gloomy. It's showering down a constant cold precipitation of snow, hail, and rain. The ground is a swampy morass of dank, reeking earth, a real olfactory torment. Patrolling this foul region is Cerberus, a 3-gullet-headed monstrous beast with a swollen belly, taloned hands, red eyes, and a vicious canine bark. As Cerberus polices the third ring of hell, he tramples over an endless sea of bodies that splay out prostrate in waves of unending agony. He claws, flays, and quarters these poor entities at his leisure. And when Cerberus notices that Dante and Virgil are down here, he charges at them, fangs displayed in all their awfulness. Virgil, however, halts his assault by throwing some of that dank, disgusting earth at him, and Cerberus seems to enjoy chewing on it. So as he's distracted, Virgil and Dante continue on, passing over the bodies down in the muck and under the heavy rain. One of these bodies sits up, noticing Dante. This person identifies himself as Chaco. Chaco asks if Dante remembers him. Dante does not. Chaco says he's from Dante's city, and that he's suffering down here right now, under this oppressive rain and this reeking mud, because he committed the sin of gluttony during his earthly life. He tells Dante that's what everyone here is being punished for, the sin of gluttony. Dante tells him that the knowledge of this suffering distresses him greatly, and he'd also like to know what will happen to his city, Florence. Chaco responds that one political faction in Florence will drive the other out, that there will be bloodshed, and that the city will be riven by political violence. Dante then asks Chaco about some other Florentines that he knows. Dante wants to know if heaven sweetens them or hell embitters them. Hell embitters them, Chaco reports, but their souls are even blacker and located deeper down in the depths of hell. Chaco then implores Dante, when he returns to Earth, Il Duce Mondo, to please remember his name to his friends, so that his memory might not be forgotten. Chaco then sinks back down into the muck. Virgil and Dante continue on their journey, and Dante asks if the torments of hell will be stronger or weaker after the day of judgment. Virgil responds that because all creation will be perfected after Judgment Day, so too will the punishments of hell. And then our two heroes continue down a curving road until they come upon Plutus, their great foe. Okay, let's talk about characters and themes. Now there are 2 characters that we're going to need to talk about in Canto 6. The first, obviously, is Cerberus. Now, Cerberus in Greek mythology is the Hound of Hell, much like he is in today's chapter. Now, he appears in many different mythologies, Virgil's Aeneid included, and in each text there's a little bit of a difference in the presentation of his appearance. Typically, he's a 3-headed canine figure. In Virgil, he's also got these writhing snakes around his neck. Here in Dante, though, he's presented almost completely differently. Yes, he barks like a dog, but go back and read his description. Cerberus here is much, much weirder. He's a bit of a humanoid. He's not really canine at all. He has hands, though they're taloned, clawed. He's got a beard. He does bark, but nothing in the description, aside from that, describes a canine appearance. In fact, he's not described as having a face at all, whether human or animal. Instead, he barks from 3 gullets. So these aren't faces, they're just throats, esophagi, which makes sense, I suppose, given the fact that the throat is associated with eating, and eating is associated with gluttony. In the end, for me anyway, Cerberus in Dante is the first truly horror-like figure we have down in hell. And I say that because true horror is born not from any cheap scares or sudden frights, but rather from the mere presentation of aberrant images and sound. And this guy is aberrant. Really, go back and read his description. The more you do that, the more you really get the image in your head, the sicker, the more demented, and the more weird this figure truly becomes. And that brings us to the second character of the canto, Chaco. Now, concerning Chaco, there isn't a scholarly consensus as to whether or not this is a real guy or not. Some people say that it's an actual Florentine that Dante knew during his lifetime. Others say it's just a generic name that Dante gave this character. And in fact, Chaco means hog or pig, which makes sense given that the sin being punished in this canto is gluttony. Nevertheless, the character in the poem is a Florentine, just like Dante. And the two of them, Dante and Chaco, do discuss real events, namely the battle between rival political parties back in Florence. All right, let's talk themes then. Now today I'm going to go off on my own here a little bit and make a novel argument, or at least I think it's a novel argument because I found no support for it on the internet. That argument is this. The ground in this ring of hell, it reeks so bad, I think, because the precipitation that's falling from the sky is gastric acid. That's right, gastric acid. This would be a great contrapasso. Remember, the contrapasso is a punishment for sinners that is both similar to and yet opposite from the sin that they committed in their earthly life. So Chaco tells us that the sin being punished in this ring of hell is gluttony. Now, gluttony is typically understood to be an excess in eating. There are other definitions, as we'll see in my takeaway analysis, but for now let's stick to this definition. What happens when you eat excessively? Your body generates more gastric acid. So the glutton produces lots of gastric acid within their body during their lifetime. Here, however, the gastric acid falls outside of their body and transforms the ground that they tread upon into a viscous, immobilizing swamp. And of course, to round out the contrapasso, a bestial tripartite esophagus with claws and beard flays them alive for all eternity. Thanks, Dante. I'm never going to stop having nightmares now. In the disquieting spring of 1936, Julian Marias, the Spanish philosopher, was riding a streetcar in Madrid when he was struck by the hateful expression of the male streetcar driver. Marias followed this man's gaze as it spitefully followed a beautiful, well-dressed young woman passenger as she stepped down from the streetcar onto the pavement below. The lunacy of Spain's politically polarized moment had corrupted even natural human instinct. We've had it, Marias remembered. When Marx has more effect than hormones, there's nothing to be done. I share this anecdote from the Spanish Civil War because it relates to today's canto. It does, truly. Yes, the surface sin of this ring of hell is gluttony, and we typically associate gluttony with the greedy overconsumption of food, but there's something else going on in this canto. Chaco and Dante, remember, spend most of their time not talking about food, but rather Florentine politics. In particular, they talk about the factional violence between two warring political parties. And these were real political parties. There were terrible political rivalries in Florence at the time. Indeed, Dante is so worried about the fate of his city and the damage that rivalry can do, that he doesn't even bother to remove himself from this awful reeking rain that's falling down upon him. Instead, he stops to ask Chaco what will happen to his riven city. Dante asks further why such great discord has even assailed Florence to begin with. Chaco doesn't have any good news. The political rivalry will escalate into political violence, just as it did in Spain in the 1930s, and blood will be shed. Pride, envy, and avarice, he continues, are the sparks that have set the hearts of all on fire. The real sin in this canto, then, is destructive politics, built up from factional strife and born from a combination of gluttony and envy. Gluttony in this canto is meant to be understood in the political sense, as the accretion of more and more political power to the exclusion of competing voices. Political and social stability is a precious resource. History is rich with Florentine and Spanish madness, poor in its opposite. Whenever flourishing and political stability reign, all prudent steps must be taken to preserve it. Were the Florentines disjoined and broke down into bloodshedding sects, we must unite in our differences and settle into a common life of peace and prosperity. Where the Spanish created apocalyptic images of the political other, we must engage in good faith disagreement. Where both the Florentine and Spanish partisans, envious and gluttonous for power, refuse negotiation, we must be patient in loss and generous in victory. O God, you have bound us together in a common life. Help us, in the midst of our struggles for justice and truth, to confront one another without hatred or bitterness, and to work together with mutual forbearance and respect. Through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. All right, that concludes my video for Canto 6 of Dante's Inferno. I kept this one a little bit shorter than the others because actually this canto, Canto 6, is one of the shortest in the entire Divine Comedy. At any rate, I hope you enjoyed the video. And if you did, I'd ask you to please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel. Remember that I'm trying to get up to 150 subscribers by the end of September. Let's see if we can get there. Thanks so much in advance for that. Don't forget to let me know what you think about this canto down in the comments below. I'm particularly interested in your own opinions, but it'd also be nice to know what you think about my idea that the contrapasso in this canto is the perpetual precipitation of gastric acids falling down upon the sinners. If you want to get in touch with me, you can also do so on Twitter at Brian E. Denton. Other than that, just remember that we will be releasing these videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday until we get to paradise. The next video will be released on Wednesday. Until then, take care of yourselves and others.